This is Tell Your Story Alaska. We talk aviation, history, theology, but most of all, the raw stories of Alaskans and the gospel. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story Alaska. I'm here with my friend Barney Funk. We just met for the first time a couple days ago because I'm at the McGrath Outpost, also known as One Wilderness Lodge in McGrath. And I've actually recorded 2 other episodes here already. And now you're the third.
All right.
Because this is kind of a gathering of very like-minded people. It's a marriage conference. And you live here, but you're attending the conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been here for 11 years now. So
in McGrath, 11 years.
Yep.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Yep.
And you are the postmaster in McGrath.
am. Yep. Ended up somehow being the postmaster here. So
What does that mean to be a postmaster?
I do a lot of paperwork, and I wish it was just sitting there and sorting mail because I love doing that. But no, it's a lot of reports and a lot of regulations and stuff like that. So exciting. It's very much a desk job, right?
And you're not being sarcastic at all. It's exciting.
No. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Yes. How long have you been doing that?
I've been the postmaster, I believe, for 5 years, and it was another year of being a clerk where I did more just mail handling.
Okay.
Yep.
So the reason I wanted to record with you is because you and your father developed an aviation for beginners course, and specifically gearing towards Alaska, which is awesome for me. I fly with a lot of young Alaskans, native folks and non-native folks who are interested in aviation, and your course is exactly what they need. And so I wanted to ask you about your course and sort of be a platform for kind of advertising, to be honest.
Sounds good. That's fine with me.
Yeah. And but before we talk about the course, let's just get your background, your story, and let's start with your parents, because your parents have sort of I've heard their name thrown around. We'll just say that. So briefly tell me your parents' background.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My dad's pretty well known in the state, and I'm Grant Funk's son wherever I go. So, he's from...
How does that feel to be? You're a Grant Funk's son.
I don't know. It's just normal now. So
okay.
I'm fine with that. He's a pretty neat guy. So I like him a lot. But he's from North Carolina originally, a hillbilly kind of, but he's lost his accent. And my mom's from Kansas City. They both met in Alaska at Alaska Bible College. They were both in Glen Allen and met there, and ended up getting married and leaving the state for a little bit, but coming right back. So they love it here.
So then were you born in Alaska?
I was born in Canada when they were kind of on their way back after leaving the state.
Okay.
And my dad was pastoring a church in Canada, and he was on a visa there. I was born, and then we ended up leaving Canada and moving up to Alaska.
Okay. So tell me about where you grew up, because I know you didn't just grow up in like Anchorage. You grew up in a unique place. Where was that? Yeah,
so I grew up in a couple different places. My younger years, we were in Keiko, a small camp, very isolated. It was us and another family, and my dad directed the camps there, and he flew. He got his pilot's license and flew out of Keiko.
How long did you live at Keiko?
From when I was probably 2 or 3 till when I was 8 or 9.
Oh, okay. So you must still have memories from Keiko then, the Keiko years.
Yeah, I have a lot of good memories from Keiko. I loved growing up there. Being one of the only families was very unique, but it was also, you could just get out and run all over the countryside. It was all yours, so just play around in the woods all day long. So.
Yeah, that's neat. When we were talking earlier, we made that connection because I fly for Keiko now for some of their events that they have there. So it's kind of, the world is getting smaller.
Yeah. I loved being a part of the camps there. We did a lot of kids camps, and had teachers come in and did berry camps. We had a lot of blueberries there, so it was really fun being a part of Keiko for the years that we were there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so after Keiko, you're around 8 or so, and where did you live after that?
We went to St. Mary's for a year, a small village not too far from there. My dad was pastoring a church in the village next to it, Mountain Village, and we could drive between there. So we lived in St. Mary's for a year, and then we ended up moving to Hooper Bay after that, where my dad started pastoring the church that was in Hooper Bay.
Well, your dad was really hopping around. Was he like church planting, or was it like just pastoring existing churches?
More pastoring existing churches, but very small churches that didn't have a steady pastor for a long time. So he brought some stability to the places that he went to be the pastor there for a while.
Yeah, well, that's a really neat legacy. So tell me about what growing up in Hooper Bay was like from 8 or 9 up till adulthood, right?
Yeah, I graduated from that school. And then even after graduating, I left for maintenance school, but then went back to Hooper Bay for a couple more years.
Where did you go to maintenance school?
School in Michigan. It's called School of Mission Aviation Technology, or SMAT for short.
That's where I went.
I didn't know that.
I did. We talked before, and we never made that connection.
Oh my goodness!
What years did you go?
I graduated 08, the maintenance school in.
Okay, you were before me then.
Okay.
I was a little bit older when I arrived there.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. So, did you know Dwayne?
Oh yeah.
Lindsay? Okay, so he taught my dad how to fly.
Really?
Yep. And my dad has stories of Dwayne. And he helped Dad fly his first 172 up through Canada to Keiko.
No kidding.
Yep.
And Dwayne went along.
Yep, Dwayne.
So Dwayne has been to Keiko.
Yep.
Oh my gosh,
Yep.
The world just got even smaller.
He at least flew into Anchorage. I'm pretty sure he helped him fly it all the way to Keiko.
Okay.
So
that's wild. And Dean, do you remember Dean?
Oh yeah, Dean.
Yeah.
We loved Dean. He was great. And so Dwayne taught me, finished up my pilot's license too.
Okay.
So I got some of the last little hours that I needed from Dwayne, and he also signed me off for tailwheel in his T-Craft.
Oh wow.
So,
okay, I
yeah.
remember that T-Craft.
Oh yeah.
It was there when I was there.
Neat.
Huh. That's really funny. Okay.
That's cool.
Okay, so tell me about Hooper Bay. What was it like to grow up there?
It's a very out of the way place, very isolated. To get to Anchorage, you have to take a flight into another hub, Bethel, and then from Bethel you can fly into Anchorage.
Or Hooper Bay.
Yeah, yeah. And so it would it's very difficult to get out into a big town anywhere to do shopping or anything like that, or to ship supplies out there, 2 flights. It makes life really complicated. And
Like just to get some basic thing like in the mail, for example.
Yeah.
It's just it takes longer and it's more expensive probably.
Yep, it takes forever, and then your freight charges on top of that are just crazy. So
Because I've been to Hooper Bay a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
I've only just landed at the airstrip and then pick off passengers, and then I took off. I've not been in town, but I remember feeling like, where am I? It feels like I'm on the edge of the world.
Yeah.
Because it's right on the ocean,
Yep.
and so the vast ocean's there, and the airstrip just is right there on the coast.
Yep.
And where am I landing? I'm over the ocean on a short final, and it's the end of the earth.
Yeah, even when it floods, about the only thing that's above water is the runway.
Oh wow! So the buildings must be built above the ground then?
Yep, all the buildings are up on stilts.
Wow.
Which helps with drifting. The snow blows under them and doesn't drift as bad. But also, when the ocean comes to visit and then we get a flood, the old house that we lived in just got flooded, and half of it fell into the ocean on the last flood after we left. But I saw some pictures of that. So,
man, it just seems like they have to keep these villages like together because the ground is disappearing under them.
Yep. So it's super flat there. No trees, no hills for 20 miles or so.
Wow.
And when we moved there, I think it's a very the population there is almost exclusively Yupik Eskimo, and so we were one of the only white families that were there. I think there was one other white family there in a village of 12 to 1,500 people. And when I went to the school there, it's funny, I looked back at the records and it's like 1% white, and I was like, hey, that's me.
That was me.
Yeah, we were that 1%. So
what is the population, more or less? Do you know?
I think it's grown a little bit. I'm not sure what it is now. I think it's maybe up to 1,600 or 1,700 people.
Oh, wow. That's bigger than I thought.
Yeah, it is one of the bigger villages in that area, for sure. Yeah. So I started out mainly homeschooling when I was there. I had a really difficult time making friends, and had a couple of really good friends right off the bat. But it was also pretty awkward to stand out like I did. And it took a couple of years, but after that couple of years, it was just amazing to be welcomed into the community and be able to be part of that community, and the great things about Hooper Bay, the love that they show people, the joy, the laughter, just have some really good memories, and that's my home. That's where I grew up.
So as a child, it took a couple of years, but then you felt like you had friends and you were part of the community and you have really fond memories.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yep. And so I was homeschooled for a while, and then ended up going to the public school half-time and half-time homeschooled.
Okay.
So I was I really enjoyed the public school, but half of the reason I was doing that was to play sports in school.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed sports, and that was really helpful for me to get out and become part of the community, and maybe even represent the community through cross country or basketball, stuff like that.
Yeah. So you wore like a Hooper Bay, whatever your name.
I'm a Hooper Bay warrior. Yeah.
A warrior. Perfect. I love that.
I'll always be one. So that was really neat. The sports are a big deal there, so that was fun.
And your whole time, like growing up there, was aviation always a part of your life there?
Yeah. So my dad always had a plane. He was the only one in Hooper Bay that had a personal plane while we were there. So we would fly ourselves out. It was cheaper to get to Anchorage if you flew yourself.
Wow.
So we'd be flying ourselves around. He would fly for Keiko for a couple of years still when we were there. So we were always flying around growing up, and had some really good flights and some really poor flights, because Hooper Bay is kind of known for its bad weather. The runway right on the ocean there, just fog rolls in when you're not expecting it.
Yes,
and the wind
does.
is terrible.
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay, yeah.
I've landed there when the runway was barely open, but there was kind of fog all around. So it's kind of like just kind of squeaking in there and squeaking out.
Exactly. Yeah, we've squeaked in and out of there a lot.
Yes.
So.
So you've always been around aviation, and you mentioned that your father was the brainchild of this course that you developed. What was his, like, how did that come up in his mind? Tell me about that.
Well, he ended up getting his flight instructor rating when he was in Hooper Bay, and also his emergency trauma technician instructor rating. So he was a ETT instructor and a flight instructor. And so he got invited to teach in the school because he could teach those electives
there in Hooper Bay. What were the electives?
One of them was just an aviation course, so it gave him freedom to do kind of aviation science related stuff. He wasn't teaching a ground school, although he did teach ground school to a few individuals there, but it was more, it wasn't through the school.
So it was a bit like aerodynamics and some of the science behind flight.
Yep. Whatever flight related science he could teach, he did.
Did your father really nerd out on that kind of stuff?
He did. He gets really excited about it, which is neat. He went in all sorts of different scientific directions with aviation. So that was really neat. And then it was fun taking the ETT course also.
Yeah.
He could sign us off to be emergency trauma technicians, and then we had a first responder squad in Hooper Bay.
Really? And you were on that squad?
I was for a little while, yeah.
You're
Bunch
kidding.
of us young guys that hadn't even graduated high school were running around trying to help people. Good learning experience.
Did you
for
have
sure.
that? I mean, do you have any stories from, like, did you treat anybody?
Yeah. Yeah, we did quite a few things. There was one I remember, a four-wheeler trying to go up a steep incline, and it like rolled over backwards, and a couple of people were there. It was really basic stuff, support the head, put them on a backboard, get them to the clinic.
Okay.
Four-wheeler injuries were pretty common, what we did, but definitely the first big call I was on wasn't in Hooper Bay. We were at a car crash, and we were the first ones on site, and they got us out. And that one I remember freezing up and not knowing what to do. And that kind of scared me, made me want to get better at what I did. And after that, I felt like I loosened up a lot and was able to do what I was supposed to do.
It's almost like that broke the ice,
Yeah.
or it was like a reality check. I
Yeah.
need to get good at this if
Yeah.
I'm actually going to help people.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was good because I went on a lot of calls with my dad,
Oh.
and he knew what to do. He was great at that. He's got some wild stories about that.
It just sounds like your dad is multi-talented. Like, the pilot became an instructor,
Yep.
the ETT, and then he was teaching these little courses in the school
While he was pastoring.
while he was pastoring the little local church.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see why he became infamous in Alaska, being so
Yeah.
multifaceted.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. And does your dad live here in McGrath now?
Yes, he does. He lives here with us. When we came to McGrath, I guess it was 10 or 11 years ago, to do the aviation course here, and we both moved here at the same time, and we both still live here now.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing like having some family nearby.
Yeah.
Man, that's so nice for your kids having grandpa around.
Yeah, it is. It is really nice. Yep.
Yes. Okay, so tell me more about this course. You and your father together wrote this aviation course. Tell me the sort of the heart behind it, the passion, the why, and all of that.
Yeah, sure. So when I went through the course when I was in high school. I took his aviation course probably a couple of years, and I was interested in getting my pilot's license, and he was a flight instructor, so it was kind of natural. Whenever he would go somewhere, he would I would fly with him. He'd let me fly, and he'd sign my logbook. And I logged way more cross country hours than I did other instruction hours. So,
So you built all the time, but it was almost all cross country.
yeah, and I had to finalize a few key time related things to get my private pilot when I got down to Michigan.
Okay.
So I had it was really great getting my flight time kind of for free from my dad,
Yeah.
and going through his courses. And then what we saw in Hooper Bay as he taught kids about flying was you take a math problem, you throw it into aviation, something that they see, because in Hooper Bay, okay, so there's no roads going into Hooper Bay. Everyone that goes in there has to fly. So these guys growing up, if they have to go to the hospital in Bethel, they're flying to the hospital. Any way they have to get out of Hooper Bay, it's by airplane. So they know aviation. It's part of their life there. So when we're taking math problems and we're putting it into aviation, there's a desire to know, let's say a distance, rate, and time problem. Mm-hmm. You put that into aviation to figure out how long it's going to take you to get from point A to point B, going
Like from Hooper Bay to Bethel.
from Hooper Bay to Bethel, going, let's say 120 miles an hour. How long is it going to take? Okay, you figured out how long it's going to take. Now you need to know how much fuel you're going to use if you're burning 10 gallons an hour. And what makes this really neat is you're taking that concept, they're learning it, and then we use a flight simulator a lot as a tool to instruct these kids on flying aspects, but also, so you figured out your time, you figured out how much fuel you're going to need. Now we're going to go on the flight simulator, put that much fuel in your airplane on the flight simulator, and you're going to take off and fly that flight. And hopefully you figured it out right, or you're going to run out of fuel.
Yeah.
And the neatest thing is to see the passion of these kids to get the right answer. Because they're sitting there flying this flight, and they're sweating like crazy because they think, I don't think I did that problem right. I don't think I have enough fuel. And they're trying to rework the problem while they're flying this flight simulator, and there's a puddle of sweat on their joystick. So, you take a math problem like that, you make it exciting and usable in real life, and it changes the dynamic to where they want to learn. They want to know, okay, next time, how am I going to figure out the answer to that problem?
Yeah.
Because I need to know the answer in order to complete this flight safely. And
That's
then,
so interesting. I just remember taking math classes. I have this memory in high school. We asked our math teacher, when are we going to use this in real life?
Yep.
And her answer was, you probably won't. She's like, I'm just being honest. And it's like, well, why would I want to work hard? But attaching something like that, the math problem, to this real life thing that they enjoy.
Yep.
It gives them that drive.
Yes, and it completely changes the dynamic. And so many young people in Alaska want to learn how to fly.
Yeah.
Whether they're going to learn how to fly or not, is maybe not. But that desire is there. So to learn how to answer these questions, is just like there's a desire to know, how do I complete this math problem?
Yeah.
And so then, we do a navigation sections where we teach them how to plot headings on an aviation chart, do wind correction angles if there's wind, all this stuff. And then at the end, we take all of these concepts that we've taught them, and we have a competition and score them on each section. One of them is, plot your heading with a wind correction angle from McGrath to Nikolai. And then we're going to put that wind in on the flight simulator. You've got to take your chart. You can't use the GPS or anything. You take your chart, you navigate. Hopefully you got the straight angle or the straight line, because if you didn't, it's going to take longer. And the person that gets there quickest is going to win the most points on that certain category.
Yeah.
So, people really get into that type of stuff. And then they learn and understand these concepes.
Oh, I love that.
Better. Yeah.
I love that.
So we saw that working in Hooper Bay, and we saw the excitement, and it was like, we got to keep going with this. Because,
like you're onto something.
Yeah, we're onto something. It's not, because I remember doing math classes too, where the train gets to the station, at X time, going, how fast was the train going?
Yeah.
And it's like what you said. It's like, well, I'm never going to be
like, I don't ride trains, and when I do, I'm not doing math.
Yeah, exactly. So, but me wanting to get my pilot's license, I really wanted to get these concepts down. So I worked at it. And going through that course, I saw how beneficial it was to me. And the flight simulator is a really great tool. They're not that expensive, just the software for them. And they're very good in order to get your pilot's license. So our course is titled Introduction to Aviation. It's not a ground school, but we teach a lot of ground school topics. So if you do take a ground school, you're going to know half the stuff.
Okay.
We're not teaching answers to the test that the FAA wants you to
It's
take.
not test prep.
No, it's not test prep. It's exciting stuff that you're going to use and be excited to learn.
Yeah.
So it's an introduction to aviation, where we sneak in a lot of math and science and technology in there and get you excited to learn those things.
Wow.
So that was what we were seeing kids getting excited to learn and sparking.
Man, I'm
that
an over
curiosity.
1,000-hour pilot, and I kind of want to take it. It just sounds so fun. Or like, I have a son who's obsessed with airplanes. He's only 3, but he might actually like it.
Yeah, it's so satisfying when you put on the flight simulator, you've got a headwind, you calculate your fuel burn, you put that in your airplane on the flight simulator, you take off, and as you're coming in to land, your engine quits and you're able to glide in and land with no fuel left. And seeing that, the smile on people's faces when they get it right, is really, really fun.
Okay, so it's called Introduction to Aviation.
Yeah.
And you gave some general things. What are some specific things? Like I think you told me earlier you do interviews.
Yeah. So it's not, if somebody's not going to end up being a pilot, this course can still be very beneficial. The excitement to learn math is one way that it's really beneficial. The science behind it, we do a lot of science experiments as we go through. And also we show kind of different career paths that people have taken that involve aviation, but not necessarily you're not a commercial pilot necessarily.
Okay.
We interview a couple that have a gold mine close to McGrath, and they have to fly themselves in and out, and that's how they use aviation in their gold mine. In McGrath here we have a wildlife biologist that works for Fish and Game, and he has to fly around and count moose all the time.
Yeah, in fact, I think he's downstairs right now. I talked to him earlier. Yeah,
yeah, and he's definitely top-notch pilot, but that's just part of his job. And we interview a smoke jumper that isn't a pilot, but jumps out of the airplanes to fight the fires. Which is a really key thing that McGrath does. Is we're a fire base. So,
interesting.
Yeah, so we put out a lot of fires that happen in this part of the state.
Are there in your experience, a lot of young people who they latch onto that one because it's cool?
I think there are, in just with how firefighting uses aviation so much here. Yeah, it just has to. So I think that does spark a lot of people's interest in firefighting here in McGrath. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so you were able to interview someone who is actually a smoke jumper.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So if I were to, from start to finish, if I wanted to do the course, how long should I expect it to take me?
So we planned it out for a full year. One of your classes in a normal school for a whole year is how we have it planned. For public school or homeschool, it doesn't matter. It's just gonna it's gonna take up your day for I don't remember how many days it's gonna be, but for a normal school year.
Oh wow! So a normal school year, maybe an hour a day or something like that.
Yeah, I think we were shooting for 45 minutes, 45 or 50 minutes.
Okay.
And usually how it works is. So it's all online. You go in and we explain what the day is going to look like. We give you an instruction time, and then we always try to give you a project to go do to finish off the rest of your time for the day. So it's not you're not sitting there watching us, for the full 45 minutes. Maybe one day we went a full 45-minute video. Usually it's not. Usually it's just a brief instructional time of around 15 minutes maybe, and then you're going and doing a project.
Okay, so that would work well in both a public school setting or a homeschool setting.
Yep.
And what would be like the age range? Like at what point, for example, my son's 3, when could he take the course?
Probably one of the biggest limiting factors is we do some basic algebra. So I think we say 7th grade and up, or middle school and up, through senior in high school. But it kind of, if you've got a really bright 5th grader, they might want to wait a couple of years before they take it, because they'll probably get more out of it. But if they can do the basic algebra, they might enjoy it.
So probably 7th or 8th grade. So that's like 12 years old or so.
Yeah,
is a good time to start.
Yep.
That's so cool. I've just talked to so many young people that have flown with me in my plane, and they always ask me, how did you become a pilot?
Yeah.
And the way I became a pilot was such a weird, convoluted way. But having a resource like this, I'll just be like, check out this.
Yeah. And we've had some great feedback. The feedback's been tremendous with the students and parents that have written us back and thanked us for putting this course on. We've had a lot of students that go for their, after they take the course, they go for their first actual flight with a flight instructor.
Wow.
And each time we hear about that, the flight instructor is blown away, because they get in the airplane, they know the instrument panel already.
Wow.
They know how to fly from the flight simulator. The simulator is a great tool And so they're in there, and they do their first flight, and the flight instructor's like, what in the world is this? Is your first flight? I don't believe you.
I remember my first flight. I sat in the cockpit, and I thought, I'm like, you're going to have to tell me what these circle things are.
Yeah.
I was clueless.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I didn't know nothing, but it was almost nothing. You know?
You think about that, and getting it into an airplane for your first time, everything is so different. But yeah, if you go through the course, we've got you knowing all the instruments and doing basic flying maneuvers too on the flight simulator. Okay.
So if I wanted to find this course, what's the best way for me to find it and buy this course?
So the name of the company is AvSTEM Alaska. But the website is av-stem for avstem.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will put that in the show notes for an easier click.
Yeah.
And cool. Barney, thank you so much for telling me about that. And you and your dad wrote this together, huh?
Yep.
A father-son project.
Yeah. It was great going through it for me. And then afterward, I felt like I was able to tweak it a little bit as we started working together to put it together.
Yeah.
And I was able to add some good touches to it. I have my strong points, and he has his strong points, and I think it really came together into a really great program.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm glad I got to chat with you because now I have a resource, because I am asked probably 20 times in the summer of flying, how did you become a pilot?
Yeah.
And how do I do it? And I've never had a great answer. I'm like, well, just try to find a school. But that is such a good resource for these younger people in that junior high school range. So
yeah, that brings up a good point too. A lot of, like I said, a lot of people want to learn how to fly in our area, but it's not necessarily for everyone. So when a student goes to a flight school, it can be really difficult and really disappointing really quick. So what we like about the introduction to aviation is by the end, you're probably going to know if you want to pursue a pilot or a mechanic field or what you want to do.
it'll like refine what you are enjoying and what you like too.
Yep, and you'll get a good knowledge of what it'll take to become a pilot.
Yeah.
So I think it's a better way to start out as a student than just, I'm going to go to a school and try to knock this pilot thing out. This will give you a good idea if you want to do that or if you want to do something different.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And would you say this course kind of geared towards Alaska a little bit?
It's got an Alaskan theme to it, definitely. We loved the aviation community in Alaska and how much of a part it is of Alaska. So we wanted to keep it Alaska themed. So all the flights we do are in Alaska. Sometimes when we give out the simulator, the only download you can do is the state of Alaska. So you're not flying all over the place.
Okay.
All the flights we do are of Alaska. All the sectionals we give you, the maps are of Alaska.
So definitely Alaska themed, we'll say. But it would be applicable to someone, say, in Florida or something.
Definitely. I think somebody in the lower 48 would actually enjoy it quite a bit, just being able to fly around the state and see what Alaska looks like in the simulator.
Okay. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, Barney. I'll put that in the show notes so it's in there and people can click on it. Make sure you check it out. I'm going to be checking it out and definitely have that in mind for my son, who's obsessed with airplanes, and not by me. He just is.
Well, great. It must be in your blood then.
I guess. I don't know if that's a thing, but yeah, it seems like it. Cool. Well, thank you, Barney. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Billy.